I'm Clive Rossfield, brother and shield of Joshua, and you're watching Primalliquid.
What's going on, everybody? So last night at Summer Games Fest, the trailer for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth dropped, and there was a ton of information in that trailer. The thing is, there might have been a good few things that you might have missed. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to go through and we're going to break them down, and we're going to talk about those things. And this could range from 1, how long the game is, 2, the areas that we're going to get to visit, and 3, a possible spoiled ending zone for the game. Yes, there's a lot of things that they threw into this trailer that I think a lot of people wouldn't have actually realized. So let's go ahead and switch on over and we can start taking a look. Okay, now what you're seeing right here is the trailer. This is Sony Vegas. This is the program I use for editing. So we can go through the trailer at normal speed, and then we can slow it down to look at some of the other bits of information. So first things first, okay? We're going to start. And this is where I think you might have missed something as well.
We're still here at the scene of this terrible...
Okay, so straight off the bat, they threw in something for a couple of frames, okay? This is obviously the news report showing, Tifa, Heir of Barrett, and Red dead, essentially. Now, excuse me. What this could essentially be is just Shinra trying to cover up and stuff like that with the with no whispers. Obviously, this is basically being described as an accident, a terrorist attack. They're not gonna, no whisper involvement in this news report. However, if we go back to the very start of the trailer, for the first few frames of the trailer, you can actually see that they added in the end of part 1 of the remake. So this is where the Whisper Tornado is essentially destroying Midgar. You can see Midgar in the background over here. He is the Whisper Tornado, and of course, here is the bridge that we escaped from. That's only in there for a fraction of a second. It is a couple of frames only. And so it starts to lend itself to things are changing, okay? Like reality is changing. Obviously, whispers do have that kind of power. So let's talk a little bit further ahead though, shall we?
We're still here at the scene of this terrible disaster, caused by a massive tornado which swept through sectors 0, 1, and 2. Amidst the wreckage of the expressway, search and rescue operations are already in progress.
Okay, so that news report, that could be multiple things. We don't fully know just yet, and we probably won't fully know until we either see more trailers or until the game actually releases. That could simply be Shinra, covering themselves, a little news report for the people, or it could be essentially the whispers have changed reality to make it look like the party is dead. That gives us complete free reign to move around the world. However, there's a few other things coming up as well. So, Unknown Journey continues. Obviously, that is probably in reference to the fact that things are different now, okay? This is not going to be the same as the original FF7. This is an entirely new journey. And if we just advance a little bit further as well, so this part right here where they're escaping what looks to be like a container, a shaft, and then out onto the open world, okay? Now, to me, this isn't Midgar that they're escaping. Obviously, when we left Midgar, we left via the highway, and the end of 7 shows the party on a wasteland. This is very much so not a wasteland. So what I think this area is right here is I think this area is the end of the Mithril mine section. Once you go through the marsh, you do the Mithril mine, and then you end up on Junan's side of the mountain range. Now, if you look here, this is most definitely a mine shaft right here, okay? You've got your main supports. The wall is also also supported here. You've got your typical mine-style lights along the wall, and then of course you've got your pipes for oxygen, water, stuff like that. So that's why I think this right here is the end of the mithril mine section. But then a little further on, we get outside. Now, first of all, it's very lush. Okay, it's very, very lush. You can see the ocean right there. And as soon as you come out of the mithril mines in the original 7, the ocean is just to the left of the exit as well, further sort of cementing that. The only thing we can't see, okay, the only thing we can't see here or anything like that is Fort Condor. However, we do see a bunch of condors around this area. But if we actually go back a little bit, notice this over here. Okay, I know it's really, really small. However, if you notice that, that does look a little bit like a reactor tower. Could it be? Could it not be? We don't know. We actually don't know. And plus, we can't see a giant condor lying on top of it. However, that does look a little bit like an egg at the top. And in fact, if we were to zoom in a little bit, let's just zoom in really quickly. So if we zoom in over there, no, it looks kind of like a church, doesn't it? Some kind of church or lighthouse, maybe. So yeah, that doesn't really look like a reactor or anything like that. The top could still very well be an egg, but we don't know. However, I would say this is probably around, you know, Junon section. So once we actually escape Mithril Mine, obviously the landscape could very much be different in the remake. So we can't go on just what we know from the original 7 for that, unfortunately. So we're gonna have to sort of guess on, you know, what is going to be around this area. However, if we actually progress further, we see the condors, and then they're talking about the world and how it's so green despite what they've done to it. Now, when the characters are saying this, I don't necessarily think they're talking about in reference to themselves. I think they just mean humanity in general, with Midgar sucking up the live stream with the Mocha reactors. So I don't think there's anything too much to look into there. Now, this right here, okay, this right here looks kind of marshy to me. So I actually think this right here, this area that we're looking at, I think this is going to be the marsh that we go to just before we go through the mithril mine. Obviously, in the original 7, we saw a Midgar's alarm that was impaled on a tree. It was kind of a rocky area with a few trees about. So this to me could definitely be the much more higher scale marsh area. And then right after that, we obviously get the Chocobo Ranch. So we are going to be having Chocobos, thankfully. Will we have Chocobo breeding? We don't know. That is way too early to tell. This is not enough information for that. However, what it does tell us is there is the Chocobo Ranch here. There, right there, is the pen area that is outside. No chocobos there currently that we can see. However, once we actually get to the game and we can look around, maybe there will be. However, next to the ranch, there should be a house somewhere over on the left, because to me, this looks just like a stable. And then, of course, we have a lone chocobo right there as well. So, we can ride chocobos as a party. However, notice one thing, okay? We have Barrett on the far left, we have Cloud, we have Tifa, and then we have Aerith. Red is not riding on a chocobo, okay? Now, he's essentially a dog. Can he ride on a chocobo? We don't know. Will he just run alongside the party? We don't know. Honestly, I don't think it's that important whether Red's on a chocobo or not. Just a keen observation. And then we're going through what looks to be some ruins here. Okay, now this is one of those things that we can't really decide where it is, unfortunately. It could be part of Gongaga when the reactor there went critical and exploded. It could very well be there. It could just be some destroyed area on the world map that is before or just after the Martian Mithril mines. Or it could be somewhere way later. We don't know that one just yet. This is possibly one of those things that might be new in the remake. Next up, we have Cosmo Canyon talking about the planets. So at the very least, we know in part 2 of the remake, we are going to Cosmo Canyon. And in fact, if I just set this back to 100% zoom, and then we'll actually just play through the trailer.
Wow. Just look at it all. It's so green. Even after everything we've done to it, it's still going strong.
It may look that way, but in reality, it's barely hanging on.
I was wondering, what's Cloud been doing these past 5 years? Where's he been?
And you're asking me this?
This is gonna sound crazy, but as far as I know, Cloud was never in Nibelheim 5 years ago.
Okay, so that little bit of dialogue right there is actually a lot more interesting than it seems, okay? For a number of reasons. Firstly, normally, Tifa keeps hold of that memory that Cloud was not in Nibelheim for a long, long portion of the game. That doesn't normally come out until way, way, way later. That doesn't. Even during the Calm flashback, that little bit of information does not come out. Tifa just sort of agrees with Cloud because she is worried that if she brings it up, he'll disappear, he'll vanish, basically. However, she was talking to Aerith about it. Now, from part 1 of the remake, we know that Aerith she knows about the Whispers. She knows about, what happened with Meteor and stuff like that. We know that she knows. And so for Tifa to start talking to Aerith about this, it sort of creates a little conflict. Well, not conflict, essentially, but it creates an interesting dilemma. So why is Tifa now suddenly speaking about this much earlier, and why specifically to Aerith? Now, is this going to be a case of the party learns, Aerith's secret with relation to the Whisper and whatnot? Or is it going to be Tifa's guessing and she wants some reaffirmation from Aerith? We don't know, but it is a very, very interesting little dialogue conversation that could lead to so many different possibilities. And now let's carry on watching, and we'll get to something really juicy in just a minute as well.
The life stream. It is the very essence of our star. The blood coursing through its planetary veins.
Okay, so basically, straight off the bat there, we know we're going to be in Cosmo Canyon. We're getting the whole lecture about the live stream and the fate of the planet. So we know at the very least we are going to get to Cosmo Canyon. And then straight after that, okay, we can see that we are in a cave. Now, I do not think this is the cave in Cosmo Canyon. Okay, I do not think this is the cave in Cosmo Canyon for a few reasons. Firstly, there is a lot of lights all around, and this is mining lights, okay? Not only that, you can see mithril. Yeah, so all of this right here, to me, looks like mithril. And then, of course, you've got typical mining features. You've got the general path going through. Pretty straightforward as a path. And then we have a nice little tanker there. We'll come back to the mithril mine in a second, though.
Shadows of the Man, I believe he called them.
Right, so this right here. So what we have here is, one, we have a giant pipe, okay? Now, if we look over this side, to me, this looks like a reactor. Okay, I don't think this is going to be Nibelheim. I don't think this is going to be Nibelheim. The terrain is not nearly mountain enough, if that makes sense. Plus, we know the reactor for Nibelheim is surrounded by a mountain range, and it's on top of a mountain peak. So this right here is not high enough to be the towering mountain that is normally behind the reactor in Nibelheim. What I would say this is is I would say this right here is Fort Condor. And the reason I'd say that is, one, it's not completely destroyed, so it can't be Gongaga. Now, it could be Nibelheim, but I'm going to assume it isn't, just because, as I say, the terrain doesn't really suit that general section. So I do think this is actually Fort Condor right here. And then once we go a little bit further, we have the general conversation in Calm, where why is Sephiroth back after 5 years? However, an interesting little thing here, okay?
We fought him. Whatever happened, he's alive.
But why come back now? After 5 years, doing who knows what?
Right. Did you catch that? So, if we actually look here, we see involvement from the Whispers. Now, we know from the remake that whenever the Whispers did something, we always had this sort of staticky image, yeah? We knew this from Remake Part 1 trailers. Whenever there was Whisper involvement, we would get this sort of distorted, staticky image. So, I believe that that conversation is a little bit of a throw-off in this trailer. I think maybe something else is going to happen here, or it could just be a transition to a flashback. We don't know. We're going to have to wait and see on that one. Now, this is the big one, okay? This is the big one. So let's just play through first, and then we'll come back and look at it in more detail.
Well now, think we woke it up.
Angered it, more like.
Feast your eyes on the Turk's latest and greatest, Elena.
She may be new, but she's still a Turk.
Okay, so I know we just saw a lot of information there. Let's go back and go through it. So, straight off the bat, we started with this little scene right here of the Genova experiments that Hojo conducted. Now, this is a really interesting one, okay? Because we'll hear the voice a little bit later. However, this person right here does speak. Could this be Genesis? I know that is the leading theory out there currently, but we just don't know if this is Genesis or not, or if it's just somebody else. It could be, it might not be. It's still a little too soon to tell. However, it would nicely tie it in. So I personally do agree with the speculation that this is, in fact, Genesis. Obviously, at the end of Crisis Core, when we fought Genesis, he essentially disappeared into the live stream. So this could very well be him, who has made it out of the live stream, and he's fighting with the Genova cells inside of him because of reunion. However, that's not the best thing, okay? The best thing about this little clip shows us the Whirlwind Maze. Remember in the original, this gathering of experiments, the reunion gathering, only happened at the Whirlwind Maze. And if we go through it slowly, you can most definitely see the rocky terrain behind them. You can see the extremely strong winds blowing on the cloaks. And then just here, you can see the Whirlwind Barrier. Okay, so what I think with this is the game is going to go much further than we might have initially thought. Because obviously the Whirlwind Maze is just before Sephiroth is released from the Northern Crater. Essentially just before Cloud sort of goes loopy and you find him at Midgar. So this could essentially be the end point of the game. Will Rebirth end when Meteor is summoned? We don't know for sure, but this to me at least gives us a very high indication of what we are actually going to get to experience. Because it seems kind of silly to put the Whirlwind Maze in a trailer if we're not going to get there, or we're not going to see anything about that in Rebirth. So for me, this is a big one. Okay, this is a really big tell, because going from the end of Midgar, so we just left Midgar in part 1 of the remake, all the way up to the Whirlwind Maze, that covers a whole bunch of stuff, and we know for the end of this trailer that Rebirth is going to be on 2 discs, and this is crazy for PS5s. Okay, if you don't know, a single PS5 disc can hold up to 100 gig of data, and then typically you would also download and install a bunch of assets to the actual PS5 as well. So this means we could end up with a disc just full of assets to download and install, all the way up to 100 gig, and then obviously we can download more as well. The reason they're probably putting it on a separate disc rather than making you download it all is because of internet speed. It is way faster to install from a disc than it is to download something from the internet, especially for people who have slow internet connections. So that could be all the assets that, you know, make up the entirety of the game for such a huge chunk of things that we are going to get to see. But I do think it's going to be crazy big. Originally, I was not expecting Whirlwind Maze though. So once we actually saw this in the trailer, I was gobsmacked, to say the least. So let's move forward a little bit now. So after that little whirlwind clip, we do see Barrett and Red in the Mithril Mines again, fighting a Mithril Golem. This to me basically just screams a boss in the Mithril Mine, probably, you know, shortly after we enter, because we know we are going to fight the Turks at the end of it. Now, you can also see on the health side of things, okay, health is pretty low, MP is pretty low, so this basically just confirms that it is very early on in the game. And plus, look at the damage that the characters are dealing: 1, 2, 3 damage. So this is definitely going to be very early on. Then we also have Elena from the Turks appearing. I have to admit, I love her voice actor, by the way. And it does seem to still be in the mine. We are inside a cave, and then we have what looks to be like a little mining outpost. We have Rude appearing, and then we end up in a fight against Elena and Rude, showing off some combination attacks, both between the enemies and also between Tifa and Aerith. Also, look at the HP values again. Okay, so we have 2 ATB bars. We are on half health here with Aerith, and that's around 400, really showcasing that we are not going to have a lot of health during this fight, which further confirms that this is in fact the Mithril Mine because of how soon it happens. Now, immediately after that, we are back outside. Now, this could be essentially anywhere. Okay, this could be essentially anywhere. We don't know. All we really have to go on is a little bit of greenery and then this river here. Now, there are a couple of rivers surrounded by greenery in the original 7, but obviously landscapes can change in the remake. So we can't really go off that knowledge, but if we wanted to try and guess using that knowledge, this could be around Junon. So where you would take the Mithril to get Aerith's limit break, where, you know, you've got the cave on the other side of the river just outside Junon, or it could also be the river between Cosmo Canyon and Nibelheim. Obviously, we do have a large rocky terrain in the other side there, but we don't need any kind of vehicle to traverse this river. So it's kind of 50-50 on where this is. However, there is a small building here, a small mechanical building. Now, this really doesn't help us much in terms of deciding where we are, okay? However, I would hazard a guess as to say this is sort of closer to Nibelheim, okay? This could be part of Gongaga, or it could be part of Port Condor. We just don't know, unfortunately. So it could be a little bit of either. However, we do know there is at least a technological structure here in this environment. And then moving on, we have a small fight with Cloud, Barret, and Tifa, just fighting what looks to be a goblin, okay? Nothing too important, and even in the general area, you can see Midgar over there. Okay, in fact, if we zoom in a little bit more again, so over on the other side right there, let's just zoom in. So over there, that is Midgar. I think we can all agree on that. Okay, it's like we've got the pipe going into it, or it could actually be a reactor. I don't know. It's kind of hard to decide because the shape is typical of a reactor, but also it is kind of Midgar shaped as well, but then looking at it, it seems to be too small. It does seem to be too small to be Midgar. So this could be the reactor we saw earlier on in the trailer. And then you've got your typical pipework going into it. It's on rocky terrain with also the greenery terrain next to it. We know that the stats are going to be low for the characters. If we just go down here, 19 to 20 damage. We still have sort of low health for Cloud, Barret, and Tifa. Low MP, only 2 ATB bars. So if we go all the way back, that could actually be Fort Condor in the background there, but we don't know that for sure just yet. And then once we go on a little bit more, so here we get our first look at Junon. Obviously, there is the small ruined town section underneath Junon, and there is the main Junon section right there. We've got the main gun, and that to me just there looks kind of like the High Wind. We have the spinning propeller right there, and then the overall shape does seem to be airship wise as well. Now that could just be part of the Junon canon. However, in Crisis Core Reunion, in the original 7, we didn't have any designs like that. We didn't have any propellers on top of the cannon, because why would we? So I do think that right there is the airship. Then we have another fight. This, to me, is below Junon. Okay, so this is probably where we're going to fight Bottom Swallow. Right now, Red is fighting a Mandragora. However, notice the health, okay? The health is most definitely a bit higher. This leads me to believe there's going to be quite a lot of fights from the Mithril Mine to Junon. It's not going to be a simple walk across the plains. And of course, damage is much higher as well. So this could end up being, rather than a few minutes away from the Mithril Mine, it could be a few hours away from the Mithril Mine. And of course, maybe we are forced to go to Fort Condor as well. We don't know, but at the very least, we can use the health numbers to sort of determine whereabouts we are. And then, of course, we've got fights with Junon in the background. Here we have the combination attack between Tifa and Aerith as well. But then this is the important one. So if we look right here, okay, if we look right here, we have Yuffie, Cloud, and Red in the party. However, look at their health. Okay, 3,000 health, 4,000 health, 4,000 health. This can tell us that this is most definitely a lot further in the game than we would reasonably expect. Now, we don't know what the level cap is. We don't know what the stat cap is. We don't know what material we will have access to. So this could be earlier than we thought, just with a lot of HP material, because MP is still rather low. Or this could be quite a bit later in the game. So straight off the bat, we do have another technological structure here. We are in a rocky terrain. We have what looks to be like a telephone pole, which is actually destroyed. Now, unfortunately, we can't tell much from the enemy they're fighting, as it is essentially just a giant monkey. But this could be Gongaga, this could be the outskirts of Nibelheim, or it could even be near Rocky Town. We know all three areas are in a rocky terrain, and we also know that there is technology here. There is a town or a village here that at the very least has access to electricity or phone lines and stuff like that. So it's probably going to be something close to a reactor. That's why it could be Nibelheim, or it could be Gongaga. But likewise, it could be Rocket Town, because obviously the rocket is there. They are going to need a power infrastructure for the rocket. So that's why I think it's one of those three areas. It could be the section just below Gold Source. So I can't remember the name of that. Barrett's hometown. It could be that, but I'm going to assume it's not, just because health is so much higher. So either the Junior section is way longer than we might think, or this is later in the game than that section. Then we go back in time to Barret, Tifa, and Cloud, low health, fighting a big bear, I think they were called in the original. But this to me is the marsh area. You know, we've got very muddy ground, we've got a few trees laid about, we've got a little bit of a cliff here in the background, so that could be the entrance to the Mithril mine. So I don't necessarily think that is too much later in the game. Right, now onto here, okay? So this is where Yuffie is terrified of Sephiroth. This is most definitely the ship. This is most definitely the ship from Junon to Costa del Sol. We have all the engines here, we have the main party, we have Sephiroth appearing, and then of course we are going to have the Jenova fight. However, look at the health. So with the Jenova fight, we are around half health here, okay? So we can essentially deduce that character health in this fight is going to be around 2,000 health. Now, with 2,000 health, that essentially puts us, I would probably say, still pretty early on in terms of health. However, the earlier section where the character's at about 4,000 health, this is also another nod that it is not North Corral where they had the 4,000 health. And I finally remember the name of the area. Go me! So I don't think it's going to be North Corral. I think the 4,000 health is going to be closer to around Nibelheim or Rocket Town, just because of the health values for that area. And then obviously we do have another Jenova fight. We can see that the area has been transformed again. It does kind of look like we're in a cave now. However, notice there is still the machinery from the ship around. So just like the end of part 1 of the remake, I do think that they are going to just sort of transform the area that we are fighting. And then, of course, we have here the Whirlwind Maze bit again, but we'll go back and we'll replay that section of the trailer, since we did stop there not long ago.
What the? Keep her away from me!
They say she's a monster, that she can peer inside you, into the very depths of your soul, that she can become those you hate, those you fear, those you love.
Okay, so we did just hear a voice there with this figure saying, "Bring him it." Now, this is the figure that a lot of people are thinking is Genesis. However, notice the voice and notice the hair. Okay, now I actually think this might be Cloud. So if we take a listen to it, and let's just listen to it again. So I think that might actually be Cloud. We know Cloud loses control of himself in the Whirlwind Maze, where Jenova essentially takes control of, well, technically Sephiroth takes control of Jenova and takes control of Cloud. Look, it's a whole boatload. Let's just go with Sephiroth controls Cloud, okay? We know this is the general area that happens. Obviously, Cloud gives Sephiroth the black materia. So it could essentially be Cloud just picks up a robe off the ground and starts wearing it. The hair definitely seems to be blonde, but obviously we don't have full color accuracy in this trailer. It's very washed out. So it could be Cloud or it could be Genesis. However, judging by the voice, the facial features, and the hair, I'm going to assume this is actually Cloud, okay? And then once we go on a little bit further, this is where things get interesting. I know the debate on this currently online is rather exciting, so let's take a look.
You murdered my dad! You burned my village!
You know that I killed her. So, who is she?
Okay, so Sephiroth right there says, "You know I killed her, so who is she?" A lot of people are assuming that he's talking about Tifa. However, I don't think he is. Okay, that would be way too obvious a tell given what is going on with the trailer. I most definitely do not think he is talking about Tifa. I think he's talking about Aerith. We know from part 1 of the remake about what is essentially happening and how Aerith is very familiar with the Whispers. Sephiroth also very much so seems to be familiar with the Whispers. So, I do believe he is talking about Aerith. We know Sephiroth did in fact kill Aerith in the original. So why is she back? Why are we essentially back doing all this again? Why is Aerith there? Sephiroth seems to be confused by that point. So if that is not Aerith, who is it? It seems to be trying to plant a message in your head. Is Aerith really Aerith? Is it a whisper? Is it somebody else? Did she somehow bring herself back? We don't know. We honestly don't know. Now, there is the small possibility that he is in fact talking about Tifa. Maybe he just did think he killed her. Obviously, we know from the original that she was very badly wounded, but she did not die. This could be one of the changes coming in the remake. We don't know. However, I do honestly think this conversation specifically is about Aerith rather than Tifa. And then, of course, here we have the blood speckles. However, if you actually notice, these bits of blood do not actually look like they're all blood. If we look at this one, and this one, to me they look more like black feathers. And then of course the trailer ends and we get the Rebirth bit with early 2024. Obviously it was already announced as winter 2023. Now, winter 2023 does lead in, well, it basically said next winter, not 2023. That's my mistake. Winter essentially goes from, 2023 to up to March in 2024. So this right now basically gives us a 3-month release window. Now, maybe they've give up on the whole winter thing, probably not. So I think we can expect Rebirth around January, February, or March. My money is probably around February though. Maybe the start or the end of February. I don't think it's going to be January. It'll be way too soon after Christmas and New Year's. If they were going to release that early, I think they probably would have aimed more for a Christmas release, because then obviously more Christmas sales. However, the big one is 2 discs. Now, as I mentioned earlier, PS5 discs can hold a lot of data. They can hold up to 100 gigabytes. And then, of course, there's also a day 1 patch to download, which I say day 1 patch, a download to actually download when you install the game. Obviously, PS5 games have a lot of assets in them, so most of the time they can't fit everything onto the disc, so they will have you download some extra assets. However, if there's going to be a huge amount of assets for, say, a very, very long game, it could essentially be that one disc is just all the assets that we are going to install to the console, as that would be faster than having you download it from the internet, especially because not everybody has access to high-speed internet. And then, of course, there is also bandwidth limitations as well. Do I think that we are going to have to change game when playing? No. Probably not, okay? Probably not. Just because of the fact that with today's technology, with today's technology available, we don't really need to do that anymore. We essentially just need to install 1 disc's worth of assets, and then we can just play from the other disc. It's something that has been done before, and in fact the original remake did this as well, where we had an install disc and then we had a gameplay disc. So it's not uncommon. However, what is uncommon is they are still doing 2 discs when the PS5 can actually have more, basically double the data a PS4 disc can have. Obviously, part 1 of the remake released on PS4. PS4 Blu-rays are limited to 50 gigabytes on the disc. So that one made a little bit more sense. However, PS5 is 100 gig. So it does lend to the question, just how big is the game going to be? How many assets are there going to be in the game? But also it raises one other important question here. What about those who do not have a disc version of the PS5? What about those who only have a discless version? This means that they are going to have to download the game. However, the download is obviously going to be extraordinarily big. If we need 2 discs on the PS5, we're essentially talking sort of at least 200 gig. So because of that, and because of the PS5's limited memory, you know, the limited built-in memory, I mean, even, well, without expanding your storage, you only have, I think it was like 680 gig on the console. Oh, hiccups. You only have about 680 gig on the console. So are we going to have another Warzone situation where you can have this installed and basically nothing else? Or is it going to be a bit smaller than we might think? Are they sort of debating us with the 2 discs? Currently, we don't know. We haven't seen enough. We can draw some guesses from this trailer about where we're going, what we're going to do, and things like that. But unfortunately, that is all. We can't get too much information. Now, from this trailer, okay, and this is pure speculation on my part. This is 100% speculation. Take this with a pinch of salt. I think the ending for Rebirth is going to be at North Crater, where Sephiroth is essentially, you know, brought out of the live stream cocoon that he's in, and he gets the black the black materia to summon Meteor. That is where I think we are going to end on Rebirth. And then part 3 will likely pick up in Junon with the weapons attacking as it did in the original. That's what I personally think anyway. Could I be wrong? Very much so. I could very, very easily be wrong on that. Just from this trailer, I do think we are at least going to get to the Whirlwind Maze. So I think that would probably be a pretty good place to end the game. Once we do all of that, you know, we'll end with Meteor being summoned. So it ends on a nice cliffhanger, ready for part 3. But that's my thoughts. That is my opinion. Let me know down below what you guys think. Did I miss something, you know? Is there something in this trailer that I have missed? If there is, let me know, okay? And of course, make sure you hit that like button while you're down there. And to stay up to date on any FF news like Rebirth or FF16, which of course I'll be making a bunch of guides for over, you know, the next few weeks when it releases on the 22nd. So make sure you subscribe for that. As always though, everybody, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you soon.